So if there's anything else you wanted to say, go into that. Otherwise, we can talk about how the chat system works.
Well, you can probably this is all still concept stuff because
Okay,
if you looked at the source code, all it is at the moment is a WebSocket connection, and that's
I
it.
see. I see.
The idea is I'm going to get Selena. So the whole VStream stuff is going to be on a separate domain
Mhm.
because we really don't want to hog up the VTuber TV domain with all these subdomains.
Right.
Um, I'm going to get them to set the cross origin for their cookie to also include that domain. So when you connect to a chat, it's just going to verify, it's just going to grab all your information from the cookie, basically looking it up in the database.
Mhm.
So that means that there is no way to impersonate someone unless you have their session.
Mhm. Mhm.
And from that, that's where it will have the deciding factor. Obviously, one of the metadata that's going to be sent to the chat server is what stream you're watching in the first place. But after it checks your cookie, it'll check if you're signed in. If you are signed in, it'll then check if you're a moderator or the streamer of that stream, and that will give you access to more tools. So it's on a per connection basis.
Mhm.
So this is not all happening on the top level statements. This is all within a connection callback for the WebSockets.
Mhm.
And as I said, I plan to use the Regis public. Sorry, oh, God, I get mixing up all my words here.
It's so good. It's so
Publish and
good.
subscriber events. And the reason why I want to do that, as I said, you can have multiple instances of the chat service. They don't need to communicate with each other, and it just reduces all the complexity.
Mhm.
But I am worried about how much traffic it can handle, pretty much, the database. I was looking into other solutions, but they don't seem uh, good for this application. Like, they're usable for it, but they're more for like analytical stuff where you'd be tracking statistics from sensors in real time, not
Mhm. Mhm.
public
Mhm.
chat.
I see.
Um, I would rather have it more like Discord's gateway, where sending a message sends a HTTP request instead of sending it over the WebSocket,
Mhm.
because then you can do that extra verification through it without hanging the socket, pretty much. Just because JavaScript, it's just pain in the ass with that type of thing. Um, yeah, I'll just have to see how it works out. I will also stress test that.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
The stress testing, it's not really to improve the code that much. The stress testing is more to get an idea of how many instances I need, because there's just some pieces of code that I cannot optimize,
Right. Right.
and because it's outside of my control, like looking it up from the database, that I can't control how much time that takes, and I
Mhm.
can't control how much time it takes for it to load that into memory. So there's always those fixed variables. The ones I can fix, I will fix. But as I said, it's just to get an idea of how many instances you'd need to run
Mhm.
at once.
Mhm. So what's also really important to the chat system is obviously the front end you're going to give to it as well, the user interacts with. And with that comes some sort of emote system, comes moderation tooling. And how's that side going to be handled?
So for moderation,
Mhm.
the idea is just to have the JSON body when you send a message or a message is received, and then the moderation events can also just be a JSON body. So you just have like the first variable could be type, and then depending on the type, that's when it looks up the action
Mhm.
for that connection. For deleting messages, that's going to be a bit more tricky because of the Next.js and stuff.
Mhm.
The problem with that is that the IDs are randomized compared to what you put in the source, which may be a big pain to deal with when dealing with the chat, because deleting a message with the Regis, I'll just for context, with the Regis, if you use the public, I keep saying public, publish subscriber events, they do not store them.
Mhm.
So it's just fire and forget. I will
Right, right,
have a
right.
storage thing. That storage thing is going to have a limit. It's not going to store the whole entire chat at once.
Mhm.
But because of that, what you can do is that a particular message will have a specific element ID in the HTML, and it could just be like the message ID or something like that, or the stamp with the user ID, whatever. To delete a message, all you'd have to do, client says, look up where that element is and just delete the element, and then the message is gone. And as I said, because the storing the chat log, the X amount of messages in the chat log at a time, you can also just scrub it from there as well. So anyone else new coming to the stream as a message was being deleted, meaning that message won't show up. There's also timeout. I haven't told Selena this yet because it's still early on.
Okay.
I also plan to have a timeout and ban. The difference between timeout and ban is ban would there'd be two options in ban. Ban them from that stream or ban them from all streams from that streamer pretty much.
Right. Oh, so you could, okay, so you just like okay, a single stream ban's actually kind of interesting. I don't see that one that often.
Yeah. So it's just to give the option pretty much.
Right, so you just sick of them for that day and just come back later.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
And that's because Twitch has banning.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a friend that is a buddy of mine in real life. He does deal with VTuber. He moderates for some big VTubers actually, some of them in Phase Connect. And he's talking about how the Twitch to ban someone, it's pretty much banning them from the stream as well, which is pretty pointless because you can just open the stream in a private tab.
Right.
So I'm not going to bother with banning someone from the stream itself, but from chatting, yeah.
Yeah, I always, whenever I see people talking about being banned from ever seeing the material, it's like, this is a losing game. You either have to then start chasing down people using old accounts and like doing ban avoidance, or then you have to somehow deal with private tabs, and that's a whole nightmare. Then you have to deal with VPNs if you deal with that. And if people want to see something after they've been banned, they will see it.
Yeah, even after the stream ends, they could watch the VOD or something of it, so it's a bit pointless. The timeouts, that's pretty self-explanatory. Another thing would be highlighting messages if they wanted to do that, so it just make the message, like the contrast of it, more visible, so it sticks out more. Like it might have a background, or it might have, I don't know, confetti or just something.
Sure.
I'm not doing the front end. Another thing that was suggested to me is warnings. I will look into that. I don't know how that would be implemented effectively, because you could just time out somebody and then put a message in there saying why you're timed out, and that's a warning. So I don't know. I don't see why that'd have to be a separate event. As for,
I guess it could be useful to have it as a separate event for the sake of the moderators, so they can keep track of people. But I guess if you have a moderation log, that also works as well.
Yeah. I kind of had the idea of that if you deleted a message or you gave someone a warning for a message, it would hide it from everyone else, but it still keeps it for the moderators, so the moderators can still see it in the chat flow.
Right.
So, as for emotes, funny thing about that, I have an old game project. I'm not going to go into that. It's just a personal thing. And I actually had chat emotes implemented already, and what I can do is I can pretty much just copy and paste that code. And effectively, what it is it's similar to Discord's thing where you can just put in the character, type in the emote name, and then put the closing bracket in. And then it would be processed server side to determine what emote it was. And then it would be turned into a HTML element, basically. So it would just inline images, pretty much.
Sure.
And I'm just going to copy that code because I know it works.
Yeah.
Speaking of chat, this kind of delves into like the moderation as well. But I just remembered it somehow. For moderation, we have an AI called Synthara.
Hmm.
Something
Again,
that
I
I'm
will
working
note
on.
the AI is to flag the message. So basically, it would
Yeah,
be make the
it's not
moderators
it.
review it.
Yeah, it won't ban anyone.
Right,
But
right,
it's
right.
like dual purpose. It works for moderation, and it's something like Neurosama, the AI VTuber, will be like that.
Hmm.
Um, but when the streamer has the option of enabling it, so the moderators can just see the flagged content that it thinks is harmful, and they can take
Then
action.
again,
You can
then again,
you can
this is
define
where
keywords.
Then again, this is
You can
where
define
you could
keywords.
implement your own bots and stuff as well, because it's just
Yeah.
WebSockets. So realistically, you can, if you got an API key or something like that, you can just connect into it and then listen for those published subscriber events
Hmm.
for a specific stream, which can then do the moderation as well. So you do have that community option as well if they wanted it.
Yeah. The point of it is just to help. It's not. It's not going to be like YouTube.
Right, right. Where yeah, on YouTube
Uh,
sometimes I will just be streaming and they're like I just don't see a message. Like it just randomly someone just starts
mhm.
getting completely deleted from chat. It's not in the moderation log, it's just nowhere.